I'm David Fortin from Ward 4. I'm addressing you this evening regarding Mr. Jimmy Triley. He is innocent until proven guilty, is he not? He has not been tried in court for his alleged unlawful act. I believe a vote should be taken up by the council and votes given to the clerk of the council or to the president of the council to see where he stands with you all, and then a personal visit or phone call made to him with the results of that vote. Jimmy, I'm sure, wants to do what is right for the city and those of the people he represents. Of this I am certain, just as all of you want to do. I do not believe that the city superintendent needs involvement in this matter at all. It should be up to you, the council. Your consideration in this decision may weigh heavily in Jimmy's future decision to run for re-election. Thank you.
Let's keep it quick. That was good. A minute, 10 minutes.
Hello, I'm Holly Garcia, also speaking on that item. As you all know, I did come second in the race to him, and for the past almost year, I've been asked what is going on. So I am happy to see that item on this agenda, and I'm hoping that there is some type of resolution. Right now, I've been speaking with residents who do feel that they are not represented. We know that we have the at-large counselors, but there is not a Ward 4 representative in that seat. It is my understanding that the order applies to him physically being in that seat. It does not mean that he gets a pass at not doing his job, not showing up to other events. Ward 4 does have a lot of things going on, including Pope John. There were 4 meetings over the summer with Pope John where the council was not present, and the residents wanted to be heard. They don't want this overdevelopment to continue to happen. We have huge parking issues in Ward 4. I had a resident call me because they had someone physically parked in their own driveway coming from the St. Teresa building because there's no parking over there. They called 311, told them to call the police. They called the police and they told this resident that they have to pay out of their pocket to actually get this car towed out of their yard, which doesn't make sense to me. And this past weekend, I'm a Ward 4 resident. I had someone blocking my driveway. I called 311, was told to call the police. I think with that, there needs to be like a system in place of how are we getting these calls to the parking enforcement. But that's just a little side piece of what Ward 4 residents have talked about. But, you know, this isn't the first time this happened. There was another counselor that there was an incident with. He stepped down. The trial is going to take time. There is procedures that need to be done, but at this time, something needs to be figured out. I know that a couple weeks ago, you guys spoke about similar issues with other departments, and I think that there needs to be a plan in place for elected officials as well for when the situation happens so that it's not continually dragged out with an empty chair. So thank you for bringing this up, and I hope there's a resolution soon.
Beverly Leonard.
Good evening. Beverly Leonard, 136 Shute Street. I was on my way into Boston Saturday night, and the backup of traffic going on Broadway, Everett, near the casino, could be seen for miles. What does that tell you? Encore reported a record high revenue of $68 million in December of 2022. With the onset of WinBet at the end of January, coupled with the fact that many Bostonians are avid sports fans, the Encore Casino will most certainly double or triple their current revenue over the next several months. Where are our tax dollars going? Why, when the casino is making huge profits, our taxes are increasing at such a rapid rate. The schools are extremely overcrowded. This is nothing new, as the superintendent has expressed to you meeting after meeting. Modulars are thought to be the best option. Modulars, as we know, are costly. They're only meant to be a temporary fix, and they raise safety and health concerns. We are placing the children in a very precarious situation. It's beyond disheartening, disillusioning, and extremely frustrating to hear meeting after meeting that Pope John is too costly to renovate. It sounds redundant to hear. We need to set up a committee to investigate further and obtain data and quotes. The superintendent has presented this information to you time and time again, and accurately and succinctly. The mayor quite honestly stated he would do what the school committee and common council wanted, and you all agreed that you wanted Pope John to remain a school. Where did this go off the track? Where did this derail? Why are you backing down? Days have turned into weeks, months. This school could have been up and running now in February of 2023. With the increase in revenue for the casino and the APA funds, this problem could be easily solved. You all have the power. Please, have a backbone, speak up. We want Pope John High School a school.
Thank you.
The abutters, okay.
Thank you.
Can I just finish that? The abutters, including myself, we don't want more overcrowding. Like I said, we want to keep Pope John High School a school. Thank you.
The next speaker is Sandy Giuliano.
Nice to see all of you again. You may have noticed that most of the people who attend and speak at these meetings are senior citizens, and as such, we feel compelled to look out for our senior neighbors. Tonight, I'd like to address items 3 and 4 on the agenda. I recall last year, during the extremely hot periods we had in the summer months, that there were quite a few issues with Glendale Towers. Has anyone followed up with the Board of Commissioners for an update or an explanation? I haven't heard of such a meeting or of any feedback being mentioned from such a meeting, but here we are, just looking to reappoint these two men. I believe it would be prudent to assess performances of these board members before you make a decision to move forward with these two agenda items. Today, I took the time to review the city's website, and I noticed that there are no minutes of meetings posted on this board's site at all. Isn't that a violation of the open meeting law? Has anything been done to alleviate any of last summer's issues? I couldn't see anything. With the charter review coming up in 2024, this is the perfect opportunity to take a look at each and every board and/or commission and its members. Most of these members receive a stipend. With the tax increase, maybe it's time we overhaul these board positions, cutting back on some of the unnecessary seats on each board. Does the library really need 13 people on the board when more often than not they cannot hold a meeting because they lack a quorum? It should be an honor to serve on these boards. It should not be just to get a paycheck. Performance should also be looked into. How many meetings can one miss before being removed from the position? No-shows should not receive a stipend. I urge all of you to start looking into these issues and make changes so the taxpayers can get some relief. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Steve Iannaco.
Good evening, councils. My name is Stephen Iannaco. I'll be speaking for John Popolo tonight. Couldn't make it, he's ill. John Popolo could not be here tonight, and he asked me to share his thoughts regarding the increase in real estate taxes in Everett. John's concerns are budget items going in that are artificially inflate our taxes. The DPW and Mr. Dimas are putting projects in the budget that they know don't have a chance in hell in getting done. Central Ave Park has not yet been started. Vernal Street Park is not yet completed. Highland Ave had been in the works for 4 years, start to finish, if it's ever finished. John urges all of you to take much closer look at all the actual line items in the budget so belts can be tightened and taxes can go down. That's what this city needs. Thank you. That was from John Popolo. All right. I would like to start off by expressing my thanks to Sergio, Councilor Mike Marchese, John Hanlon, and Al Latanzi, who attended my mother's wake on a very snowy evening. I would like to give special thanks to Councilor Wayne Matusky, not only for stopping in at the wake, but also for requesting a moment of silence for my mother. She was an active member of this city for many years, and it was a very nice gesture. Thank you very much. Tonight's agenda has many items of interest on it, but I'd like to address the donation of $43,000 from 600 Broadway regarding the bike racks. While it certainly is very generous that after destroying that area of Broadway, they now want to put a Band-Aid on the situation. I'd like to know where this bike rack will be located and who is actually footing the bill for the leasing of the bikes. Since the zoning board decided to allow the monstrosity to be built right up to the sidewalk, where is the rack going to go? Is it going to be placed on the sidewalk, taking up yet more space for pedestrians? Who gets to decide? Who gets to decide on the placement, the city or John Tocco? Weren't we promised that the rack be installed on the actual premises of 600 Broadway, or has this been changed? Is the $43,000 the total cost, or is there additional expenses for the leasing of the bikes? Will there be an annual cost, and who will pay for that? The city or 600 Broadway? Before you vote on this, it may be wise to have these questions answered. A much larger donation could be needed. This building is a shining example of why we need tighter zoning laws in Everett. Have any of you walked down Fairlawn Street or spoken with any of the abutters? Have you seen the views from their windows and yards? And now a rooftop bar.
Steve,
I'm urging, my last sentence,
Okay.
my last sentence, Mike, please, thanks. I'm urging all of you to invite the planning board and zoning board up here for an honest discussion of what's going on in this city to ensure this never, ever, ever happens again. Thank you for your time.
Thank
I
you,
appreciate it.
Next speaker is Gurleen Elsie.
How are you?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, President. My name is Gurleen Elsie Jabouin, and I am from Ward 4. Today, I wanted to come in to talk. Actually, it's something towards the administration. I wanted to know if they have any plans to help homeowners in the city. Is there any programs in plan to help them out with the high rise of, property taxes, and in return, they can help their tenants stay in the properties? Because a lot of people are selling their houses because they can't afford to live here anymore. A lot of people are moving out because they can't afford rent. I know multiple cities are coming up with different programs, so I wanted to know if the city has any plans to help people to stay in the city. That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Ms. Ricci misled the council when she came before you to explain the need for the $500,000. She stated she, along with the less expensive lawyers, would be working on the Department of Justice investigations, along with using AI to minimize the costs. Come to find out, Mr. Papalato sent an agreement letter to the City Council on June 9th, stating he and Ms. Ricci would be the principals doing the work, which explains why the majority of the $500,000 in invoice charges were paid for Ms. Ricci and Ms. Papalopoulos' services. Some questions I have: are we financing the mayor, Mr. DiPiero, and Ms. Devaney's legal expenses? Why was John Papalopoulos hired in May, a month before the Department of Justice investigation? What was he doing for the city in May? The May invoice has negative newspaper stories. Shouldn't the city have hired a PR person instead of a lawyer? Doesn't this sound pretty similar to the mayor asking for the city to pay for Mr. Papalopoulos' services to address his defamation case in 2020? If the city solicitor signed the agreement on June 9th, why the delay in notifying the council until November? Besides asking for the lawsuit's costs, you please include all grievances and complaints that resulted in legal expenses, settlements, and NDAs. I also suggest using a different law firm to eliminate any appearance of conflict of interest with the mayor. Next, the tax increase. I would ask the City Council to request the mayor increase the owner-occupied exemption from $158,000 to at least $258,000 to reflect current home values. Chelsea's current rate is at $228,000. Everett ownership rate is below 40%. Many owners-occupied properties are owned by seniors living on a fixed income who don't qualify for ARPA funds. With the increase you and the mayor levied on us, many residents were forced to make changes. Most were forced to make changes like what they buy, where they go, or what they can afford to do. Some even needing to go back to work. So while many were forced to make life changes because of the tax increase, what changes are the city making? You have the power, please use it, just say no. We are going to need every red cent in free cash to address the ongoing revenue shortfalls the city will be facing next year and the coming years. You have to get the spending under control. You need to request the mayor and the CFO come up with a plan to reduce costs. Recommend a freeze, a 10% budget cut across the board except for essential workers and services. This is how the real world works. This is my next thing, okay? This is a separate thing at the end, so, okay. First, I'd like an update on the referendum question for the mayor that went to the city solicitor or to the lawyers to figure out what happened. So if we could get an update on that. And I'd also like to ask that the city council sponsors a referendum for gambling beyond the current casino at 1 Broadway. We can't depend on Wynn to do the right thing. I was troubled to read the mayor and his lawyers and the Wynn lawyers going to the Gaming Commission to say they can expand without going to the voters. No one is happy with the casino except Wynn, the state, and the mayor. I think we all believe in consequences for decisions we make and those we don't make. What is troubling to see is the council makes decisions without understanding the total cost, the implications, the ramifications of what you're passing. Take the Devon School, sold for $950,000 for senior housing. Did we get senior housing? No. Did the sale agreement have a provision to pay more for the property if we didn't get senior housing? No. Now we pay close to $1 million to lease the school and maintain the building. The TDM agreement passed without any discussion or idea of the impact of the community. It took Cambridge 30 years to get down to 30%. And they have are T stations, universities, colleges, and major businesses, none of which Everett has. Zoning, the same thing. With all these resident developments going up, what's the cost to the city? Yes, they will pay about $1 million apiece, but at what cost? How many police, fire, infrastructure upgrades like water and sewage, traffic?
Paula,
okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for listening to me tonight. My name is Cynthia Sweet. I run Sweet Paws Rescue. We are a foster-based nonprofit animal rescue in the greater Boston area. We do not have a bricks and mortar shelter. We are also the organization that takes in all of the abandoned, stray owner surrenders for the city of Everett as well. We've had a great partnership with Officer Stacia Gorgoni back there. We've been taking the city of Everett's dogs for the last couple of years, and it's been a great partnership. I am here to speak on item number 40 about regulating animal breeding. So in the state of Massachusetts, there is no oversight for actually any breeding of any animals, nothing, not one bit of regulations at all. As a nonprofit organization, I am highly regulated, which is totally fine. I have to make sure that every single I is dotted, every single T is crossed. I have to make sure that every single piece of paperwork that I submit to the state is absolutely perfect, or I get a fine, which is fine. Every single Everett dog that I take in, I must submit to the state, make sure that all of the dogs are spayed and neutered. Here's a perfect example of one of the dogs that we've taken in from the city of Everett. Want to hold her up? We take in all of the animals and we pay for all of the veterinary care. This dog right here is going to cost my organization probably close to $4,000. We raise the money, not a big deal. We're going to get her spayed. We're going to get that thing taken off of her, and we'll find her a fantastic home. The reason why I'm here tonight is to hope that you guys can think about the fact that regulating breeding in the city of Everett is really a no-brainer. If I'm taking the abandoned and stray dogs of the city of Everett, and I'm highly regulated and I'm a nonprofit, we're doing this just out of the goodness of our hearts. We don't make any profit on any of our dogs. We are an organization of almost 300 volunteers. And the fact that we pay for all of the vetting. If I'm highly regulated as a nonprofit entity in the state of Massachusetts, and I don't make any profit off of our dogs, and I am going to breed my female dog in my third floor walk-up in Everett, litter after litter after litter, not pay any taxes on it, and I could just do whatever I want. And when I am done with breeding that mama dog, what do? I dump her in the city of Everett. And who takes her? We do. So we are responsible for making sure that dog is healthy before we adopt it out to anybody in the state of Massachusetts, which of course, why would we not? I'm not going to adopt.
Hi, everyone. I probably won't be here for the next meeting when you go over the item number 40, but really quick, so this is Pepper. This is a tumor. She's not pregnant. That's an actual tumor. She's actually blind as well. Pepper's from a breeder. We have a serious problem in the city of Everett, and all cities do. I mean, other cities are worse. Like Cynthia Sweet mentioned, in the state of Massachusetts, rescues are highly regulated. Councilman Matusky can tell you, he was a state rep, that the Department of Agriculture has a conflict of interest within themselves. They are dog breeders that actually create the regulations for dog rescues. Therefore, there have been no state laws passed. I know there was something in the States in 2016. It's failed in the House. It keeps failing. I don't understand why. But we really need to regulate breeding, because if I own a home in the city of the city of Everett, the state, and I want an Airbnb, I have to go to the state and get licensed, and I have to go to the city and get licensed. So how come people are just taking innocent animals like Pepper, breeding them, and there's nothing I can do as a law enforcement for animals to help them? Like, I'm helpless. We had a woman raffling off puppies for, just raffling them off. It's insane. And then there's people breeding kittens to give to people to feed their snakes. And there's no laws that in this city for me to regulate these breeders. I think they should be licensed. I think they should. I know I was speaking to the city clerk years ago about this. They just need to be regulated. You have to license to have a dog daycare, to run a rescue. The only people who are not regulated in this state are dog breeders. And I think everybody in the city loves their animals. We know that you guys are all pro-animal. And dogs like Pepper are the results of what bad breeding, comes to. And they are dumped. I've had a dog since Thanksgiving that was in the basement, and the breeder had the sibling puppies in a cage and trying to get them to breed. And then we wound up with pregnant dogs. They're inbred, and Cynthia Sweet took them, and then there's puppies. But we really need this regulation. I mean, I'll just say that I've tried to ask the state for help before, and Dr. Lorraine O'Connor from the state of Massachusetts, she's the chief veterinarian. And I'll quote her, she said, "Rescue dogs are damaged and broken, and they should all be put down. Try saving one a year." And then she went on to speak about how I should be into breeding more. And I've spoken to people at the Department of Agriculture who are actual breeders. I've sat down with them themselves. They are against rescue, but not breeding. I'm not sure if that's why the state's
Stacy,
not.
thank you.
I'm just saying the state's not regulating. Please, as a city, we need to do it because it will help me do my job better to protect dogs like Pepper. Thank you.
And we have one final speaker, which will be Wendy Post.
Hi there, Wendy Post, Ward 2. Thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of the citizens of Everett regarding the resolution to prohibit any city employee who has been finally convicted of a felony resulting in registration as a sex offender. As I stated in the last meeting, with regards to the police and fire departments, I believe query checks should be run each time a member is up for promotion. Simply vetting a person prior to employment is not enough. In my case, the crime occurred after 10 years of service. I've been working not only with the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security, but the Sex Offender Registry Board as well. They have processes in place to assist any city or town, as well as schools and businesses, to do criminal checks. Depending on the situation, there are online tools that are basically administrative tasks that can easily be accomplished by going on 2 websites. The eSorry, which is the portal for the sex offenders, and anybody can go on that, and then the iQuery, which provides access to Massachusetts criminal offender record information through the Department of Criminal Justice. And that's something that any city or town can have access to. And there's somebody at the Sex Offender Registry Board whose job is to, for lack of better words, advertise, say to you, hey, I have information on how you can all create a policy and handle these requests for whatever area you're looking to query or sorry. We must be action-oriented and have these policies in place in order to protect our citizens. Updating the city charter to include verbiage which does not allow sex offenders to work in positions where the general public could be in jeopardy is crucial to our city. Allowing a firefighter to continue working while being a sex offender is simply unacceptable to everyone. I would like to end with a quote from Police Chief Mazie after the conviction of our former superintendent. And it reads, and I quote, "I commend the work by our investigative team and want to remind all those in our community that we stand ready to assist those that are victimized. When that happens, I'll give you my phone number." Thank you.
We can close public participation. That's the end.
Motion to close public participation.
That's the end.
Motion to close.
Motion to close public participation.
Second.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Will be Lillian Gorham.
Good evening. I don't know if everybody was as shocked as I was when I opened my real estate tax bill. was up $1,500 a year. That's $100 plus every month. The city budget is out of control. It's spend, spend, and spend. Each department should reduce their budget by 10%. It can be done. Many items are now outsourced, so the budget should reflect that. Inflation, gas, electricity, oil, even eggs, even the hens thought they were underpaid, and eggs are now $4 a dozen. As council members, it's your job to go over the budget line by line and reduce, and it can be done. Ask any housewife who has to pare down her budget. Homes in Everett are being sold at record high prices, and that's all well and good for the seller. But the inflated prices of these homes impacts our homes that are not for sale, and they get assessed for more dollars. That's a fact of life. Because I like visual aids to get a point across, I have two here. They're money trees. And you know the ones everybody thinks we all have. One is a happy, growing, well tree. And it has much money on it. It's happy. It's healthy. And that was before my taxes came out. After my taxes came out, we have a poor little tree. He's very sad. He's not doing well. So we have to rein in the expenses. If I can do it at home, you people can do it here.
Speaker is John McDonald.
This one here. I have something to say about the upcoming budget. From what I can tell, the departmental budgets are not based on what the department spends, but on some inflated amount that has little to do with the actual expense of the department. Everett taxpayers are paying a lot more than they need to. Here are some examples. They're based on averaging the last 2 years of departmental expenses and how much more is being requested for 2023. City Council, 40% more. Constituent services, 120% more. City auditor, 37% more. Purchasing, 57% more. Office of Sitting, 49% more. Office of the Treasurer, 42% more. City Solicitor, 84% more. Human Resources, 46% more. Information Technology, 155% more. Election Commission, 191% more. Licensing Commission, 20% more. Conservation Commission, 36% more. I have 2 more pages of that, of examples, but I'm going to skip them. The taxpayers of Everett are being asked to pay over $18 million more than is needed for these departments. Take a look at it. Do your homework. I ask, how much has it cost the taxpayers in the past? 50, 80, $100 million over the past 10 years? Where is that money going? How is that being spent? This method of budgeting is causing hardships to many homeowners in Everett. As elected council members, I would expect you to govern for the taxpayers of Everett and look out for their well-being. Thank you.
Thank you. The next.
I've got budget items. Schools. How long is the administration allowed to drag out providing responses to the city council for answers on items that are referred to the mayor's office? The indecisiveness, unresponsiveness that this administration operates under is a disservice to the community and the children of Everett. Does everything have to become a crisis before the corner office acts? How many more school years from 2018 will pass before he lifts a finger to fix the learning environment for the children or ARPA funds to be properly distributed? Excuse after excuse for their lack of responsiveness and more importantly, inaction. The mayor's office has become a parking lot for issues. Fix the schools. The 600 bike rack donation, do not accept it. Let them handle installation and maintenance on their land as originally approved. If we accept it, we own it on the sidewalk. We don't need to get involved with this. Let them put it on their property as was approved. There is a good reason for setbacks in our city. Great spot for bike racks. The 605 building across the street has a setback. Why not the 600? It's shameful what's going on in this city. It's haphazard. Budget. If you all focus on reducing the budget and lowering taxes, rents would be more affordable. We don't need all these motions going on about affordable. Lower the taxes, the rents will be lowered. We need all of you engaged in the budget, not just 3 like last year's budget. Please don't rubber stamp the mayor's budget, inflate it with projects, parks, and streets that get funded and not completed or not even started, like the Central Ave Woodlawn Street Park, funded in last year's budget. Where does the money go? This city needs budget accountability and several million worth of budget reductions. It's about time this administration goes to work for the people and puts a responsible budget forward. You can't rely on the tax and spend mayor to reduce the budget. You have to do it here in this room. T-stop. T-stop, last sentence. What's coming first? The T-stop to Everett or the mayor's gondola down Broadway? Good night.
It's on? Yeah, it's on. Good evening, councilors. Tonight, I'd like to restate my objections to item 7. I now have in my possession the notice of decision regarding the variance granted to 600 Broadway, in which has been recorded at the Middlesex Registry of Deeds. Right here. Item 9, page 4, right there in black and white in English, okay? Located on the property. It quite clearly states, on the prior to occupancy permit, the applicant shall sponsor one 15-bike sharing station with the Everett Bike Share Program, which is the blue bikes. The applicant shall provide space for this station to be located on the property, not sidewalk. I urge all of you to look into this further rather than just accepting the donation. What is the actual cost of installing the station? Where is it going to be installed? What is the annual cost for actually leasing the bikes? Who is paying that? Will the 600 be picking up the expense annually? As far as I can see, this additional bike station is for the residents of 600 who will not be allowed to obtain resident parking stickers and therefore should not have a car. With the Paladin School across the street and all other extra foot traffic that it brings, please ensure that the bike racks and associated costs stay with the building. Do not allow for yet more overcrowding or additional costs to the taxpayers. Maybe our 2 minutes should be increased to match the increase in our taxes. Thank you very much and have a good evening.
Our next speaker is Paula Staridi.
Good evening. Please stop talking about the modulars. What message are you sending to the minority parents and the kids especially? Even with the new high school, which we all know is at least a decade away, we still need another school. Or did you all forget about the $1 million a year we're paying to lease and maintain the Devon School? Doesn't it make sense to renovate Pope John while we wait for the new high school, and once the new high school is built, have Pope John replace the Devon School, saving us over $1 million a year? This is not rocket science. Next, you're all aware via an email from a resident that the Secretary of Commonwealth ruled that the city did not provide any grounds that allowed the city to redact the invoices and gave the city 10 business days to comply with her request. So you should be getting the information too. I strongly recommend the City Council not pay any more bills, as Mr. Papadopoulos' involvement is a conflict of interest as he has represented the mayor in the past for his personal lawsuits. Haven't we learned anything after paying for over 4 years of legal bills for Mr. Forestier that the truth comes out? Next, taxes. We have serious revenue and spending problems. Any meaningful revenue is years away. Add to that losing the largest taxpayer, the power plant, in the near future, and you have the perfect storm. You must get spending under control. Our taxes increased by $77 million as our population increased by 5,000 people over the last 7 years. How much will the mayor ask to support the additional 20,000 people from these residential developments? Another 300 million? Question, why is anyone being hired without a job posting or a resume for $75,000 a year? Why are we paying ISD to deliver meals when Meals on Wheels pay their drivers $18 to $20 an hour and use part-time help and many volunteers? Why are we spending over $20,000 a month for electricity and heat for the old Everett High School that everyone agrees is a tear down? On top of that, over $1 million to fix the roof and buy a new boiler. Then throw in another $10,000 to heat for Pope John. Nonprofits and businesses are using city properties and no one is paying any rent, and we, the taxpayers, are on the hook for all the expenses. We can't continue to do freebies, and we have to, as our taxes
Paul,
go
the
up.
2 minutes are up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. President and City Councilors. I'll be back up to speak again on non-agenda items. As far as agenda items, what I would speak to, number 6 and number 12. Number 6, in order directing the city clerk to work with KP Law to develop a ballot question for this fall's local election, which if approved by voters, will remove the mayor as a voting member of the school committee. Get rid of the mayor as a voting member of the school committee. Many of us, we don't want him there. All right, he's been caught texting people during the meeting, telling them how to vote, okay? We're sick of that. Number 12, new business. A home rule petition requesting the ballot Massachusetts legislature charter amendment to remove the mayor of the city of Everett as a voting member of the Everett School Committee. Again, we don't want him there. Why is he a voting member? Okay, the man smirks at public participation speakers. I mean, he's got no respect. We're coming there after a long day's work, after our shift, to speak to important issues, and he's looking at us smirking. And we as members of the community in Everett, we're not gonna take it. We're not gonna go for that. But that's about it for stuff on the agenda. I'll be back to speak about other things. Thank you.
The next speaker is Kit Bridge.
This one, we're good? Okay, thank you. Good evening, City Council. My name is Kit Bridge. I live in Ward 4-2. And I'm here to speak on ARPA funds in particular. There's an agenda item tonight to get some transparency into some ARPA funds that have already been approved for substance abuse, and asking the city to provide more details on that. I'd like to commend the city for providing a project dashboard for the ARPA funds. I think that that level of transparency is important. However, as someone who has been a software project manager for over a decade, I can also tell you that it is lacking. It's lacking in detail. It's very unclear how the items on your project dashboard relate back to the ARPA funds quiz that has been sent out, or the survey that is available online for constituents, how those categories relate back to those areas in the project plan. It's also very unclear the last time the project dashboard was updated. As a project manager, and I'm sure many of you have done similar things in your lives, not providing details on when data is going to be available, how often it is going to be available, a greater detailed level of transparency as to how monies are being spent. The City of Everett has a huge opportunity with $47 million on the table to make a gigantic impact in areas that don't normally get the budget or attention. Schools are a great example. So please hold the city responsible for providing that information. And I look forward to more information there and hopefully more community engagement with the ARPA process overall. So thank you.
Next speaker is Juan Ramos.
Good evening to all, and I hope you guys had a good day. I'm currently a sophomore at Everett High School, and the lack of transparency in this ARPA funds in the dashboard isn't okay. The fact that the city received $47 million and the fact that the schools are overcrowded as is, currently there's about 2,500 kids in Everett High School when there's only supposed to be 1,800 kids. The classrooms they're at 25 to 30 kids. That is not acceptable. This money should be used and be spent correctly, and not only that, but be accounted for. Because you shouldn't have lacks, or like $3 million shouldn't be unaccounted for. That's a lot of money. You could use this to expand or build a new school. It's not that it's not that hard. And the dashboard can be updated easily. I, as a sophomore myself, I've grown up with technology my whole life, and it's hard for me to manage, let alone find it, because the city website isn't as easy as it should be to navigate. That's all.
This one, we're good? Okay, thank you. Good evening, City Council. My name is Kit Bridge. I live in Ward 4-2. And I'm here to speak on ARPA funds in particular. There's an agenda item tonight to get some transparency into some ARPA funds that have already been approved for substance abuse and asking the city to provide more details on that. I'd like to commend the city for providing a project dashboard for the ARPA funds. I think that that level of transparency is important. However, as someone who has been a software project manager for over a decade, I can also tell you that it is lacking. It's lacking in detail. It's very unclear how the items on your project dashboard relate back to the ARPA funds quiz that has been sent out, or the survey that is available online for constituents, how those categories relate back to those areas in the project plan. It's also very unclear the last time the project dashboard was updated. As a project manager, and I'm sure many of you have done similar things in your lives, not providing details on when data is going to be available, how often it is going to be available, a greater detailed level of transparency as to how the monies are being spent. The city of Everett has a huge opportunity with $47 million on the table to make a gigantic impact in areas that don't normally get the budget or attention. Schools are a great example. So please hold the city responsible for providing that information. And I look forward to more information there and hopefully more community engagement with the ARPA process overall. So thank you.
Good evening to all, and I hope you guys had a good day. I'm currently a sophomore at Everett High School, and the lack of transparency in this ARPA funds in the dashboard isn't okay. The fact that the city received $47 million and the fact that the schools are overcrowded as is, currently there's about 2,500 kids in Everett High School when there's only supposed to be 1,800 kids. The classrooms they're at 25 to 30 kids. That is not acceptable. This money should be used and be spent correctly, and not only that, but be accounted for. Because you shouldn't have lacks, or like $3 million shouldn't be unaccounted for. That's a lot of money. You could use this to expand or build a new school. It's not that it's not that hard. And the dashboard can be updated easily. I, as a sophomore myself, I've grown up with technology my whole life, and it's hard for me to manage, let alone find it, because the city website isn't as easy as it should be to navigate. That's all.
Next speaker is Janice Lack.
Hi, I didn't know what I was going to say this evening because there's so much on this agenda that it's overwhelming and frustrating that some of the items are still on the agenda. So what I will say is, why don't you sort of leverage what you can by holding back on the bike situation, item number, what item is it, 7, until the mayor or his administration responds to item number 6 or an item number 8. So, you know, you guys do have some power, so use it. Also, I just wanted to say, item number 15, naming the high school Pope John after Walter Carrington, I'm all for it. Yeah. Thank you.
And our next speaker, Mary Fortin. And our next speaker, Mary Fortin.
I too want to speak on number 15. I was brought up in this city, born and brought up in this city. It was respectable, honest politicians at the time that I'm aware of, and everyone kept their word, or they got ignored, but they're expected to keep their word. Now, we have video where our mayor has come forth and said he would renovate Pope John if the school committee and the Common Council approved, and they both did. I expect him to keep his word. I expect the Pope John be refurbished for the kids. There's no room for them. It's what we owe them. I know high school will be planned, a new high school, but that's a long time from now for kids. Somebody's in the 2nd grade will be going hither, thither, and yon, and cramped into spaces for the next 10 years, and then he'll graduate. That's not fair. That's not fair. I do, though. I expect politicians to be honest. I expect the mayor to keep his word.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to extend so we can take the 2 additional people that are speaking on non-agenda items.
Second that.
Read the,
These are 2 people signed in the non-agenda item portion, which is usually taken at the end. We're going to take it now. Tony Raymond would be our first speaker. Same time limit extends.
Mr. President, good evening, councilors. Tony Raymond, Ward 3. Here I am again expressing major concern about the overdevelopment and the inadequate parking spaces that are provided. The most pressing issue recently is sexual predators here in Everett. An ex-superintendent of the school system here in Everett convicted, an ex-firefighter and a city mayor accused. Okay, more concerning is that sexual predators are being protected, past and present. We're here to expose you and other criminal acts in our city. Furthermore, if you align yourselves with scandalous members of city government, you defend them, you support them, you contribute, not only do you look bad, you You should take a moral inventory of yourself. We're gonna let everybody know, many people here in the city are totally fed up. We're gonna spotlight many wrongdoings here in the city. We're not going anywhere. In fact, we're just getting started. We want new, honest, kind, non-scandalous, let me repeat, non-scandalous city government that actually listens and can come up with swift, compassionate solutions to our concerns. Thank you.
Our last speaker will be Paula Sterini.
Hi again. Do any of you really believe that any of these developments are going to lower rents in Everett or make Everett more affordable? Do any of you think that $2,500 for a 440 square foot apartment is something that the people in Everett are looking for? I asked the planning board and the planning director what the stats were for the demands for what kind of housing in Everett were. Not a tough question. I asked because all these developers, for the most part, are building micro apartments, studios, and one-bedrooms to meet not to meet the demand, but to keep families out and to minimize the impact on our schools. Is that what we want? Transient people, stay a year or two, move when you want to raise a family? What happened to building communities and neighborhoods? Next, I'd like you to ask for a referendum question on extending gambling beyond the current site, be added on the November ballot. I don't think KP Law and the Wind lawyers had our best interests when telling the Gaming Commission we were all in. I asked you to put a pause in place. Saugus put a pause in and didn't get sued. Roll back the zoning changes and stop TDM from being used to bypass parking requirements until you get something finalized and the city cooperates with your efforts. Finally, I'd like you to revisit the newspaper funding. I was surprised that the city doesn't have a contract with the newspaper, no requirements on the number of copies print, no requirements for free online access. Then last week, the city again attacked a resident and taxpayer who happens to be a woman of color. Mind you, as you're in the midst of a DOJ investigation, the mayor has the luxury to use city dollars to fund his legal expenses. The mayor also has the luxury to draw upon his campaign funds. Residents don't have that luxury and are forced to use their own money. Whatever happened to the IG's letter regarding his longevity payment of $180,000? Are our tax dollars paying for him to contest that? If the chief of staff and mayor say no to splitting up the funds, I strongly recommend voting no on any budget item because attacking a resident is disgusting and you should do something. You should all say something right now.
Motion to close public participation?
Second.